All right. Episode 3.
You ready for this one?
I was born ready for this one.
I can't wait to talk about this one.
Yeah. And I definitely thought I was born ready for this one because this movie was already out when I was born. So interesting. Welcome to Meet Cute, a podcast where friends Jenn
and Priscilla Wilson
get together to discuss all things rom-coms, from the classics to the latest releases. We'll be diving deep into the world of romantic comedies. Yeah, so as I said, the movie that we're discussing today was out just right before I was born, so I was literally born to this movie. I think we both know this about each other. It's like at the top of movies for us, so this is going to be a great episode.
Top tier.
So tell me about today's movie.
Today's movie is an oldie but a goodie. Like we said, it is top tier on many lists. It is When Harry Met Sally. Billy Crystal. It's Harry, Meg Ryan. Again, another Meg Ryan classic. She plays Sally. Written by Nora Ephron. Nora Ephron wrote Sleepless in Seattle, so a lot of really good writing in this movie as well. And it's directed by your boy, Rob Reiner.
What a beautiful piece of art that he has created, or he has directed.
I'll give him that, but that's all I'll give him. So this classic movie follows our title characters, Harry and Sally, from the time that they meet at the University of Chicago, just before sharing a cross-country drive to New York. They start out kind of hating each other, to a point of liking each other and eventually loving each other all through the course of 12 years of chance encounters while in Manhattan. And it is just a brilliant movie. I love it. I love it so much. Meg Ryan, again, is adorable and quirky, and Billy Crystal is so funny. And I love his character. His character is so good.
I would put Billy Crystal on the list with Rob Reiner just because this is the only movie I think that I've seen him in that I can quickly recognize him. Maybe I've seen him in other things he's made cameos in, which I know might sound crazy to people, but anyway. But he definitely was such an attractive, fun guy in this movie that, I loved them two together. And I loved how Meg Ryan wasn't, there was a quirkiness that we love, but it wasn't the same girl from Sleepless or the same girl from You've Got Mail, or all her other movies. She just looked different. So, yeah, I love this movie. I mean, we can probably rant about this movie all day long, but let's talk a little bit about it. There's going to be some really good questions here that this movie brings up to the forefront.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, we start off with Harry and Sally. They graduated at the University of Chicago. They are going to drive to New York together, and he is literally sucking Amanda's face, who is his girlfriend at the time, and he is in there. And
yeah, they're very handsy. His girlfriend is a good friend of Sally's. That's why she's driving him out to New York City, because they're both heading out there for their careers. She's another journalist in this movie, like she was in Sleepless. And yeah, Harry and this girl are typical lovey-dovey college sweethearts.
Well, then they get in the car. Sally's kind of being, hello, hurry up. We've got to get going. Because as we learn when he gets in the car, she's got it all mapped out. She's like, we can take turns driving. Do you want to start? Do I start? And my little road trip heart loved that. It loved how well she planned her little road trip from Chicago to New York. I also love the car dialogue. I mean, these are two people that don't really know each other, but they're just again, and it could be the freshness and youngness of college graduates. I don't know. But they're just like, they're just having some back and forward. Harry's bringing out some really good points. I think I can identify a lot with Harry in this car conversation for some reason.
No, I agree. A lot of the things that he says, not just in this conversation, in their, you know,
Mhm.
their first conversation really, but just his point of view throughout the movie, like
Mhm.
like it resonates a lot with me. He has this dark side to him, like a dark sense of
Yes.
humor. And she seems to be his counterpoint in that. Like she
Yeah.
seems a lot more optimistic, and you know, where she is very type A, very organized and has to have a plan, and she kind of seems closed off if you notice. Like
Yes,
that's
because
what I find funny about them.
because she has that moment where he asked, "Tell me the story of your life," and she's like, "That would even get us out of Chicago." Like,
Mhm.
the story of my life is nothing because I'm getting ready to go live it. Like, she hasn't lived anything. She's just been doing her little schoolwork to try to
Yeah.
get to this moment, I think.
Yeah, and he's a lot more laid back, goes with the flow, like that's life kind of
Yes.
attitude compared to her. She seems a lot more I guess like a control freak type of
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, they have a lot of really good banter. And they end up stopping at a diner where they have this conversation.
Mhm.
He brings up to her that men and women can't be friends for real because the
Mhm.
sex part gets in the way. She definitely disagrees with him, and he's not saying it like to be mean. Anything he says that she takes offense to, he only ever states anything very matter of factly, which I like about him.
Mhm.
Um and he just like makes such a good point, and I think that's why a lot of the things that he says offends her, because she knows like deep down like it's true on some level. So he maintains that men and women can't be friends because of the sex part, and she disagrees because she's like, well, what if the woman doesn't think of you in that way? And he says it doesn't matter because it's already there, like
Mhm. Mhm.
at least on the man's part.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this movie wasted no time to get us right into a controversial question.
Yeah.
I remember every time I watch this movie, I think of it, and I feel like I always have a different opinion on it depending on how I'm feeling. But apparently, like I looked this up, apparently sociologically or psychologically, insert olically there. Apparently, like we can be friends. Men and women can be friends, and there doesn't have to be anything sexual or romantic about it or anything. However, I think where I stand on it today is that yes, but the moment there is an attraction and the attraction is acted on, that is where the line gets blurred and it's going to be very hard to go back. What do
Yeah.
you think?
I agree. I think men and women can be friends, and regardless of whether or not they find each other attractive, the acting upon it is what ends
Hmm.
up
Hmm.
ruining things. Um, so as long as there's like boundaries, you know, and you
Hmm.
respect those boundaries, I think your friendship can be sustainable. It's if you act on it, if you end up going from friends to relationship,
Yeah.
you know, that changes things a lot. So,
Yeah, I agree. I and we will get to touch this point a few more times in the movie because technically, like this sort of is a topic the movie revolves around, you know.
mhm.
And spoiler alert, it didn't work out for them because they acted on it. Anywho, but I really liked too the scene, you know, when they're leaving the diner, and I actually wanted to ask you this because he says something about being attractive, and she's like, "Are you making a pass at me?" And
Mhm.
he's like, "No, like I'm just saying this." What do you think? Do you think he was making a pass at her?
No.
I didn't
I
think so
I
either.
I don't think so. Just knowing the kind of person he is, where he kind of doesn't have a filter, and he
Yes.
just says whatever pops into his head. I think he genuinely was just stating a fact. you
Yeah.
are attractive. I mean, he even said that at the diner when she's figuring out the tip, and
Yeah.
the way he's looking at her, it doesn't come across as like I want to sleep with her or something. It's
Mhm.
more like he has like an amused look on his face,
Mhm.
and he was like, you're attractive, and I think he even says like empirically you are attractive. So
He does.
scientifically, like just looking at you, you
Mhm.
are an attractive person, like across the board. And so she takes it as a pass. I definitely didn't take it as a pass, but I think it's natural for women to feel
Mhm.
like there's an ulterior motive to a guy complimenting you like that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think so too. And it's it sucks that it has to, right? Because I think, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but I think we benefit from having, if you are a heterosexual woman looking to date men, it is beneficial to have a man on your corner. That is, I mean, when you see a fighter to go to fight, they have different coaches.
Mhm.
Each coach specializes in something that that fighter needs to go into that fight. So I think it's beneficial for women to have a man in their corner. And I feel like that could have been Harry for her, has she not been so in her head thinking that Harry was hitting on her.
Agreed. And so that whole conversation ends up just like
Yeah.
making her think of him differently, and he's just kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
And they get to New York, they part ways, which
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to, every time I see it I laugh because she didn't drop him off at a place, like
No.
at a building. She dropped him off at the entrance to Washington Square Park, and I'm like, where is he going?
And he just grabbed his bag and just walked.
And just walked into the park. He's starting out as a hobo. Like it's just something that always made me laugh when I realized it. Like he's not even going to like a dorm or an apartment building. He's going into a park.
I didn't even realize that, but you're so right. He just goes with his little bag. But apparently,
He
he
went
does well.
somewhere. Yeah,
He does
he went
well.
somewhere
Wherever
because
he went.
he's like a political consultant when we meet him again.
So we're gonna fast forward now 5 years later. Before we do though, I have to say something about the diner scene really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Ride Me Big Sheldon. It's something I will never ever forget. And if I ever date a man named Sheldon,
No.
that is such a weird thing to say, but I'm going to say it. I just need you to know that because that is such a line. Anywho, but we do fast forward to 5 years later, and now she's sucking face.
Yeah, she's in a relationship with this guy. She's
Mhm.
bringing oh no, he's bringing her to the airport,
Mhm.
and they're at the gate, they're making out. Harry comes into frame. He's about to walk past them, but then does a double take because he recognizes the guy. And
Mhm.
so they start talking. He starts talking to Sally's boyfriend,
Mhm.
and at first she doesn't recognize him, but then when her boyfriend introduces him, like his full name, you can
Mhm.
see like she's trying to make herself like small.
Invisible. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's like, please God, don't recognize me. I've
Yes.
done that before. I've absolutely done that before.
You're like, oh.
Where you're just like, please have a bad memory because I don't want to deal with this right now.
And he
And
kind of does until it hits him, and you can see it in his face.
yes,
He kind of
yeah,
goes,
yeah.
"Oh, wait, I think I know you."
Yep. And
Mhm.
so he, nothing else is said. So he gets on the plane and she's like, oh my God, thank God. Thank God
Mhm.
he didn't place me. He's so obnoxious. Um, and then she said, like, the one thing she remembered very clearly from their trip 5 years prior was the fact that he made that comment about
Yeah.
how men and women can't be friends. And she asks her boyfriend, do you find that to be true?
Mhm.
And he like thinks about it and he's like, no, I don't think that's true. And she's like, do you have any women friends? He's like, no.
He's like, "I'll get some if you want me to." I said,
So she gets on the plane and she's all, happy and in love and all that,
Mhm.
thinking about her boyfriend. And then Harry's sitting behind her, doesn't say anything until the flight attendant comes and takes her drink order, and Sally is very much her same self, like has the most complicated order,
3/4.
everything on the side,
Yeah.
everything to specification.
Yeah.
And that's when he speaks up.
Yeah. And I love their next door sort of passenger, because he was like, you guys know each other. You should probably sit together. And then we have another amazing dialogue between Harry and Sally, and they're going on and on about, how long she's been dating Joe. And he goes on about he's he's engaged. He's marrying Helen, who is keeping her last name. And I thought that was such a cute little thing to say. I'm sure back then it was like a big,
yeah, probably.
It's like a big thing to keep your last name. So then they get off the plane, and then we have Harry suggesting that they become friends. And she's like, I thought you said they couldn't be friends. And then Harry goes full on, and I love this part. He walks through the whole case as to how it is possible if they both have partners or they're both in relationships, but then lands himself right back into it. No, it's impossible again. But I love how we can hear his whole thought process and how he's just like, da, 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 da. So I love that.
It's the no filter thing. I think I like that a lot about his character.
Do we think Harry's a Scorpio?
I don't know. Because he's got the dark side, but
he also has a romantic side.
True. And he's very emotional.
Yeah.
Just
seeing Helen and Ira,
right, and just like him verbalizing what he's feeling all the time. Yeah, you know what? You might be right. Maybe he is.
I think Harry's a Scorpio. No wonder we gravitate to him so much.
Yeah,
you're a fellow Scorpio. I am a Scorpio moon, so we are just going to be besties with Harry. Anywho, so she's basically like, I'm sick of your BS. Just leave me alone. Don't, goodbye. And her nails look really good there, by the way. And then they're riding together in that little moving sidewalk. What is it? Moving walkway. We're riding together in the little moving walkway. Anyway. And then they look at each other and she's like, okay. And then so he backs up. Anyway.
And then they separate. They're like, all right, we're not going to be friends. And they go live their lives.
Another 5 years.
Another 5 years. They both are going through some major changes in their life.
Yes. But we are introduced to Marie. And I love Marie.
Yes, I love Carrie Fisher in this movie. Like she's so good in it.
I have a question for you, because we're now at I think that's at the Boathouse, New York, if my New York knowledge is correct.
It looked like it.
Ooh, look at me. But we're introduced to Marie and her other friend, who, forget it, we don't care about her. But I have that question to ask you, or I have to ask you a question, Priscilla.
Yeah.
It's a very serious question.
Shoot.
I know you enjoy the movie Sleepless in Seattle.
And
I know you also enjoy When Harry Met Sally. Marie is better than Becky. Yes or yes?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, tell me more.
I do love Marie. Maybe it's the Northeast in me, but I like Becky's honesty. Like she's blunt.
Okay. I feel like my whole world just came crashing down.
I'm not saying I don't like Marie at all, but I think I appreciate Becky's honesty more.
When we first meet Marie, like I didn't love her right from the beginning. So I do have to give you that, because I didn't love her right from the beginning. I loved her as the movie progresses, because at the beginning we have this delusional girl that's in a very complicated quote unquote situationship.
She's having a straight up affair with a married man.
And she's trying to like make it happen and make fetch happen here. And her friends are like, no, this is not it. Which leads me to, as I continue that conversation, another question I have for you, and that is the transitional man. They talk about the next man that Sally gets with has to be her transitional man.
Right, her rebound. Where it's the next person to like kind of dip your toe in before you really like get into a real thing.
Do you think we need those?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's good to have that transitional person. Other times I think some people just they're not built for that. Maybe they just want to really do the work on themselves when they go through a major breakup and don't really want to have that rebound as like an escape. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the transitional man is more of an escape from how you're feeling about whatever transpired.
So I agree with you, and that's why I feel like how soon it'd been since Sally and Joe broke up. It's like, yeah, girl, this is whatever you get right now. It's a rebound.
Yeah,
but I don't think
when they're
necessarily
talking, she had broken up with him
a couple
like
days
that
ago.
week or something like that. Yeah.
But it's like if she gave herself time, I think timing is what makes the next man transitional man versus.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I also want to talk about the reason why her and Joe broke up. So her and Joe break up because when they started, they wanted the same thing. And as things evolved, she realized she may want to explore a different thing. And he was set on no. Now, I think it's very normal for relationships to evolve and people change. And it's a normal thing in life. But I think without experience, this is just literally me just talking. I think the key to making something like that work when your partner is changing and evolving, or you yourself are changing and evolving, is a partner that's willing to embrace that person's willing changes.
Growing together, because if you think that the person that you get with is going to remain the same forever and ever, you're going to be very, very disappointed.
Yes. And the reason why this sticks out to me, and especially after already seeing the movie when I'm rewatching, is because it sounds very much like, well, Sally, Joe signed up for one thing and you didn't give that to him. But then Joe marries, again, I'm jumping ahead, but just as a point here, he gets married to his next relationship.
Yes. But you know what? I have to tell you, you know how many times I've heard of a dude getting out of a long-term relationship with one woman, and then with the next one, that's the one he ends up marrying. It's very much, I think it's very much the whole taxi cab theory of Sex and the City.
Just thinking about that. Yes.
A guy settles down when he's ready. I don't think the woman plays as big of a part as we think. And that's a very blanket statement. I'm not saying that
again,
is
we're not
for
professionals.
Right. I don't think that that's necessarily something that can be applied to all men, but I've heard of that whole scenario playing out exactly that way a lot of times.
Yeah. Because this part, it just had me thinking, I'm like, okay, it's okay for your partner to change, but it's that willingness to embrace them in their change. But there's also the taxi cab theory. So it's like, it was very like, it wasn't meant to be, I guess.
Yeah,
that's the best
ultimately, like that
summarize
was not the person that she was supposed to be with. That's not Joe was supposed to be with,
Yeah.
And that can be a hard concept to really wrap your head around, especially what they were together 6 years, something like that.
Yeah, it was a long time because it was from when we left them last time, and then 5 years, 5-6 years, something like that.
Yeah, because she's 26 when they're at the airport, and then she mentions that she's 31 at the lunch. Also, not for nothing, when they're talking about all this, I remember thinking like, my God, the pressure is so real to get married. Like the way well, not so much Sally, but the way her two friends are talking about finding a man and get out there, because if you don't grab him, somebody else is going to get him, and how are you going to feel knowing that your husband is married to somebody else? And then the other friend says something like, Cause Sally says like, well, that's supposed to be my motivation. Like, I better act on it in case he dies or I die or somebody gets him or whatever. And the friend's like, well, at least you can say that you were
You
married.
were married.
And
I
I was
know.
like, what the hell? Like, but that pressure, definitely a big thing back then. It's probably still a big thing now, like
Mm-hmm.
I think women are a lot more discerning when it comes to actually getting married. Like, we're getting married later in life.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
but it just like listening to that, I was like, damn, like
Yeah.
you don't need, like, you kind of just care. They just care about being married. It's like the status of
Yes.
being married. Like, that is supposed to be this goal, this milestone that means that you're successful in your life.
Yeah.
And it almost gives off the impression of, it doesn't matter who it's with, at least you're married.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's so
Agree.
scary.
Agree. It was an interesting conversation. I get it. Her friends want her to get back out there, but in their case, they're like, your clock is ticking, so you need to get back out there and
Right.
get married,
I
which
have
is very different.
I have to say, the whole comment that Marie makes where she said someone else could be married to your husband,
I knew. Okay, yeah. Tell me about that. I knew how you felt about it.
because if he's my husband, if he's meant to be my husband, then he will be when it's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 37. I was married at one point
Mm-hmm.
in my life. So technically, whoever I end up with, someone else was married to your wife at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, someone could be married to your person at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
You come together when you come together. You know what I mean? Like, would we all love to know when exactly that'll be? Of course. We're
Mm-hmm.
human. We want things when we want them. But I don't think that that's something I'm really worried about. Like, that statement is not something that would send a panic through me, because I trust
Mm-hmm.
that whatever's meant for me is not going to pass me by. Like, it'll happen in the timing that it's supposed to.
I have to wholeheartedly agree with you, because I think for me, a lot of it came with age almost. When I was in my 20s, especially like late 20s, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to be 30 soon. That means like I've got to get going." Then I jumped over the fence and now I'm 31 and I'm like, "Oh, it's fine. It's not there's no clock ticking." And I know there's still women in the early 30s that feel like that, but you realize there is no clock ticking outside of your body.
Right. The
It's
biological
in your
clock
it's in
for
your
kids.
mind that's ticking. So yeah, I was about that whole interaction, because I agree with you. I think they were just trying to get her married. Now we have Marie and Sally at a bookstore, and Marie's like, "Hey, there's a guy over there looking at you," and Sally's like, "Oh yeah, I know him." So as Harry approaches and Sally introduces Harry to Marie, she says that was Marie,
She
because
dips.
Marie heads out.
She
Because
dips.
Marie knows. She knew. But anywho, so she dips out. They go on, they go have a coffee, they talk about their relationships, because it turns out that Harry is going through a divorce.
Yep, he's going through a divorce. Can I tell you the whole rundown of how everything transpired between him and his wife when he and Jess are
Oh my God, when they're at the
at the
game. I
football
forgot about
game?
the game. Yeah.
I think it's football. They're at a football game and he's telling him all this stuff. It hurt my heart. It always has. Like, the
Yeah.
whole rundown, like, it's so vivid, you can see it. And then, from personal experience of being divorced, like, his whole story, like, I don't know, it resonated a little bit more, and it really, I don't know, it made me feel so sad for him, because
Yeah.
he really took a chance on this woman. Like, when they end up having the same flight 5 years before, and he tells Sally that he's getting married, and she's very surprised, and she even says to him, like, that's very optimistic of you. Like,
Yes.
I wouldn't think that you would be married? And he's like, well, I'm madly in love, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so for that to really kind of blow up in his face, and I think he even says like deep down, I had a feeling that we weren't like as happy as maybe I thought, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I knew intuitively that she was gonna hurt me in the end or something like that. Like it's so crazy. It's so crazy what happens to him.
Yeah.
And just the idea of like how hindsight is 2020. Like it's something you don't even maybe really realize until you look back at certain
Mm-hmm.
things in your relationship to be like, "Oh my god, this is clear as day of what was going to happen," you know?
Yeah. Agree. I forgot about this scene because yeah, the sadness in his tone was very palpable. Um but yeah, so we have them back, they're having coffee. They now decide they're having a walk. They now decide and say, we're going to be friends. We're going to try to do this friend thing.
Mhm. I think that is a really good example of timing
Yeah.
because their 21-year-old selves, they could not be friends.
Yes.
And they kind of had to go through experiences and live their lives in order to meet each other again, where they're both
Mhm.
going through kind of mirroring each other with what they're going through, like the end of major relationships for them. And it also helps that like they've grown, they're a little bit different. He even says something to her on the walk where he's like, when we first met, I didn't like you.
Mhm.
He's like,
Mhm.
and I like you now. He says she's a lot softer.
Mhm.
And then of
Yeah.
course she gets offended.
Of course.
She's like,
Yes.
that sounds like a compliment, but it's really an
Yeah.
insult. And he's like, all right, you're still a hard ass. Like,
I love that. I love that conversation.
yeah.
It's true. And I think, again, she's softer because now she's been through life, right? Now she's been through heartbreak. She's done all these things and she's sort of, you know, has a personality now, understands life a little bit better, I think, too.
Yeah, I mean, even so, think back when they're in the car driving to New York, they're talking about the movie Casablanca,
Mhm. Mhm.
and her view of the relationship in that movie, she says, like, of course she runs off with the one guy and doesn't stay with the main guy, Humphrey Bogart, who runs a bar and whatever. She's
Mhm.
like, of course, any woman would do that because they're practical and blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah. And then fast forward to, now, I think, them ending up becoming friends.
Mhm.
They go out to eat. They call each other late at night when, if he's feeling depressed or whatever. He calls her
Mhm.
one night. He's asking her what she's doing. She's watching Casablanca and they're watching it on the
Gosh,
phone together.
yes.
And he brings it up to her. He said, I
Mhm.
can't believe you would choose this dude over Humphrey Bogart. And she's like, I didn't say that. I would never say that.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And he's like, all right. And he just kind of like leaves it alone. But that's another thing. Like, you change your mindset about
Yes.
different things at different points in your life. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
so that also plays a part in them being able to be friends. They've grown.
I agree. I think that's another beautiful part of this movie, the chronological kind of storytelling of people changing and growing through their 20s. It's beautiful because again, if you would have told me this when I was 22, I would have been like, "All right, yeah, that's great." But now that I'm on the other side, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I've changed so much."
Yes.
My
We,
what I want, my thought process has
yep.
changed. So I love this scene though. Okay, I have a comment about this part because I love when he says channel please. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, I could literally have that on repeat to put me to sleep every night. Just channel please. I love that part. But I also feel, and every time I rewatch this, I feel the same way. I feel like in the sequence that we're shown versus the conversation that they're having, in the sequence, we can feel and see them falling for each other, but their conversation is still very friendly. It's almost like they're oblivious of what's happening or to what's
Um,
happening. They're oblivious to what's happening.
yeah, like they're kind of setting this foundation for a relationship, but neither one of them is that's not their intention.
They don't realize it. Yeah.
It's very behind the scenes.
Yeah.
No, I love it too. I love the fact that they call each other and they're hanging out together. Like he brings out the playful side of her. I think they have great chemistry. He's
Mm-hmm.
very funny. He makes her laugh
Mm-hmm.
and he's just amused by her. Like their whole sequence where like they're running errands together and
Yes.
she's at the she's at the mailbox and she puts
Yeah.
each individual letter and then checks and his face, like the way he's just like looking at her and then finally grabs the letter. Like it's so good. It's so
I
good.
love when she's ordering at the restaurant and we can't hear what she's saying, but we know what she's
Yeah.
doing.
Yes.
And he looks at the waiter like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so, so cute.
It's very cute.
And we go into like a lot, other cute moments with them. We have them, at the museum and they're doing the cute little voice,
Mm-hmm.
more pepper, my paprikash. And it's so cute. And I love, and again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about it's good to have a man in your, kind of like if you're a hetero woman to have a hetero man in your corner because she says, I'm going on a date. And he technically asked her out for dinner, but she says, I can't because I'm going on a date. And, he was very cool about it. And he's like, is that what you're going to wear?
Mm-hmm.
And, telling her, well, you look really good in skirts. And I love that part because it's so, as girlfriends, right? Like we're like complimenting each other, like, oh, that looks great, maybe change that or whatever. I don't know. And maybe I'm making a big deal about it, but I just love that scene because it's such a, your male friend is telling you
And
what.
he's very genuine about it. There's nothing
Yeah.
really behind it.
Yes.
But
It came from a friend zone.
right. And if you notice like her face when he's like, "Oh my god, why didn't you tell me? That's so great that you're going on a date." She seems confused because she was like, "Oh, we've been spending a lot of time together." Like
Sure.
I thought it was kind of weird, but it did almost seem like she was a little bit disappointed that he didn't care. Like you can kind of see in her face that she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, he thinks
Yeah.
it's great. Okay." Like you can tell that it kind of didn't sit that well with her.
I
But
have to agree.
yeah, but they have that kind of friendship where they are very open with each other about who they're dating and
Yeah.
talking about people that they see. And I believe Harry is at the batting cages with his best
With
friend
Jess.
Jess,
Mhm.
and he's telling him that, and Jess is just like not understanding
Mhm.
their relationship. He's like, I don't get it. Like, you have a good time with her, you find her attractive, you can talk to her about all these things,
Mhm.
but you're not sleeping with her. And he's like, no, that's the beautiful part. Like, I don't feel that pressure to like be a certain way because I know that this is just friendship and blah blah blah. It's just really interesting to me
Agree.
that like that the guy that the friend seems so confused as to why they're not sleeping together. Like,
Mhm.
does she not like, are you not happy around her? Then why
Yeah.
aren't you having sex with her?
Yeah. And the hopeless romantic in me is kind of seeing this too as like, we all see it. Can you see it too? Like, you two are the only ones not seeing this. We all see it. Which technically it's not the case here because it doesn't seem like Jess has ever met her because they do the double date later. But
Mm-hmm.
I think from what he's hearing, he's like, I see it. So where is it? Well, we have the deli moment or deli
The
restaurant.
scene, the famous scene where they go to lunch and they get into a conversation about Harry having spent the night with his latest date.
Mm-hmm.
They slept together, and they have a conversation surrounding the topic of orgasms. And she's like, well, how do you know she's not faking it? And of
Uh-huh.
course, as a typical guy, he is so sure that
Yeah.
like he's doing everything right, that she would like no woman has ever faked. And just the back and forth. And then I love the fact that she did what she did. She wanted
Yes.
to prove a point to him because she's like, listen, every woman has done it at some point,
Mhm.
and you've dated a number of women, so you do the math. Like at some, like the chance is
Yeah.
pretty high that at least one of them has faked it, and he's just like not hearing it. He
Yeah.
can tell, and then she launches into her version of faking it, sitting there
Yeah.
in a crowded diner. I love that scene because she's like, you wouldn't think her character would ever do anything like
Yes.
that.
She's composed. She's put together. She's calculated in a way, you know? She's not going to embarrass herself in public like that. And yet she does. And the scene is so beautiful because then you have people like slowly turning around, like,
Mm-hmm.
am I hearing what I think I'm hearing?
And she's not even phased when
No.
she's done.
She
She's just,
climaxes. Yeah.
yeah, when she's done, she just continues eating,
Yeah.
and she puts him in his place.
Yeah. And then we have a cultural moment. I'll have what she's having.
You know that's Rob Reiner's mom.
Yes, of course. I have to know the family. Actually, while I was searching, because I think the only reason I knew that was his mom was because in the Mindy Project, I feel like I name dropped the Mindy Project a lot, or maybe it's just today. But in the Mindy Project, she says Danny is telling Mindy that she in a relationship of two other people, she is Bruno Kirby, and she goes, "I'm not even Carrie Fisher," and the other one goes, she's like, "No, you're the lady that says I'll have what she's having." She's like, "I'm Rob Reiner's mom." So I was like, "That's his mom." Then I found through that search that apparently Billy Crystal was the one that came up with that for Rob Reiner's mom to say that. And I thought that was cute. He's funny.
He's very funny. What you'll be very interested in knowing about this movie, by the way, it's kind of, so the idea for the movie was based on Rob Reiner going through a divorce of his own. And so when Nora Ephron was like writing for the movie, like when it was decided that she was going to write the movie, she kind of interviewed him, and he provided like a basis for the character of Harry. And Sally was kind of based on Nora Ephron and some other friends of hers that she knew. She was like kind of like a mix of all these women that she knew, including herself. And then when Billy Crystal became attached to the project, he kind of contributed to the whole script, and he made it funnier. Like he made Harry funnier. And I wouldn't be surprised if he improv'd certain things. Like a lot of the things that Billy Crystal says, I wouldn't be surprised if he just like made it up on the fly. Like it's very much his style. But it also makes sense. Like Rob Reiner's very funny. So I'm also like, okay, that makes sense that Harry is kind of supposed to be based on Rob Reiner, because Rob Reiner has a dark sense of humor as well.
Yes, which one of the main reasons I like him. But also, I love this. I got literal goosebumps because you think you can't love a movie more, and then stuff like this makes you love it even more. Because now I'm thinking of Rob Reiner in the sense of this emotional yet funny guy, and that's not helping my crush. I'm just gonna say that. We can move on. Okay, so now we're in New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, sparks are flying.
Wow. I love this scene because I love the song, you know, making two lovers of friends. And as they're flipping, their faces go from you first get Sally smiling, then you get like their faces go from like smile to, oh shit, this is happening.
Yeah, it seems like they both have this realization that like, uh-oh, I think I feel something that's not strictly friendship here.
Yes.
Like they really start to realize like I'm in trouble.
And I love that. I love that so much. I still don't understand the kiss because I feel very much like if you you realize you're feeling this, then let's not, you know.
It's a New Year's tradition.
But I don't know. Maybe it changed somewhere in the 90s because or maybe where I grew up, I don't know. growing up, I don't remember New Year's Eve people that weren't together kissing.
I do. When I got older and like started going to like New Year's Eve parties with friends and stuff like that,
Yeah.
when the countdown ended, you kissed somebody. Sometimes, sometimes two girlfriends would like kiss each other if there was no boy that they really wanted to kiss around or whatever. You had like a very friendly like peck, or obviously the people that were in couples, they kissed each other. I'm trying to think if I ever kissed anybody. I don't, you know what? I don't remember kissing a guy that was just my friend because I was always involved with somebody. So I never had that opportunity to just kiss someone.
This never, ever, I tell you, Priscilla, I've never seen that ever. I was so shook when I first
Really?
watched this movie. Yeah, when I first watched this movie. And let's put something out here already, episode 3. Although we are doing a movie rom-com podcast, I don't watch movies that often. I don't watch a lot of movies. Like, I've never seen Casablanca. There's a lot of movies that we're going to cover that I have seen many times. There's some that I haven't. So I don't have a big concept of what the 80s were like or the 90s were like, other than like my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because culturally, I have not seen movies. Wow, I sound really dumb as I'm saying that, but I'm going to own it.
No, you don't sound
So
dumb.
I do not recall. Like, this shook me when I first saw it because I was like, y'all, you just realized you're attracted to each other. Let's not kiss. Now, I don't want to spoil it or get it too far ahead, but this happens again later. And even then, I was like, what are you doing? It's like literally like, this is going to lead to this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But anywho, we're at the New Year's Eve party. They do the countdown. They kiss. But then we go to...
They set each other up. Like, I think they like probably get spooked.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, all right, let's try to set each other up with our best friends. Yes. They go on the double date with Marie and Jess. They go to a restaurant. They're each kind of having their own side conversations with their people. And you find out very quickly, like, Sally and Jess they're not a match because they already think very differently about some writer that was very
literally inspired
him. And Marie and Harry, I think there's just not really like a click there. And then
they're just both from New Jersey. That's the only
right. Like, it gets super awkward, and Sally's like, you two are both from New Jersey. And they're like, oh, where are you from? And then they say it, and they're like, oh. And I laugh hysterically because that's true. That is a thing. Like when somebody says, oh, so-and-so is from New Jersey, I'm like, oh, really? What part? And then they tell me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, bye.
And then that's it. Like, I'm like, cool.
Great. Have a great time.
Honestly, 9 times out of 10, if I'm meeting somebody else from New Jersey, it's usually in a part of New Jersey that I just never really go to. Like maybe I've heard of the town, but that's really it. I can't comment on the town or anything like that. So I actually, when I went out with all those like Tulsa remote people to try pickleball, there was a girl there, and she was from New Jersey. And I was like, oh, really? I'm from New Jersey too. Where are you from? And she was actually from around my parts. So we actually were talking about different things. That's very, very rare that happens to me when I meet other New Jersey people, like, randomly. Like, so their reaction to each other, both being from New Jersey and going, oh, like, that is very on point.
They were very much like, this is it. I do love how they, like, it was the hype, and then they just kind of okay, and then like looked around and died down.
Yep.
I have to make a comment here because we see this a lot with rom-coms, right? There's always a friend, the friend of. Another reason why I love this movie so much is that they actually get screen time. They get a story of their own. I have a huge problem when I'm watching a movie and there's a sidekick and they just have like one-liners, or they just ask the tough questions, and they just do the whole "I know you very well" type of thing, and that's it. And I don't know their story. I don't even know. Sometimes I don't know what they do for a living. Sometimes I don't know their favorite color. But with this movie, we get to literally see them fall in love and get married.
Marie and Jess end up really hitting it off,
Yeah.
and they get into a relationship, they move in, they get engaged, like the whole
They
thing.
are quickly head over heels, which good for Marie because as we
Yeah,
established, she was in a situationship.
Toxic.
Yeah. So good for her because I like Jess a lot. A lot. So I'm really happy for them.
Mm-hmm. So Marie and Jess move in, they get engaged, and so Sally and Harry go shopping for them. It's, I'm guessing, a housewarming type of thing. They go to, I think, like the Sharper Image. Like it's
Yes.
it's a weird store where there's just like a bunch of weird items, and they're looking at different things, and Harry sees the karaoke machine. This is why I love their friendship. Like the fact that he's like, okay, we're doing this. Come over here, please. And
Yeah.
she comes over and they start singing a song from Oklahoma. And
Another
I
quick
know
shout out to Oklahoma.
another shout out to Oklahoma. And so they're doing a duet, and they're like really getting into it, having fun, and Harry just kind of stops and he sees his ex-wife with the man that she left him for. And it's super awkward.
Yes.
I felt so bad for him because honestly, it seemed like such a petty move on the ex-wife's part. Like, you don't have to come up to him.
No.
You don't need to come up to him.
And she just, I don't know if it was just the actor, the actress that played her, but she was just so, hello, Harry. Like, it was just so weird. I couldn't believe that he was married to her. That's what it was.
Yeah,
and maybe that was the point. I don't know. But yeah.
Her whole approach to like coming up to him and saying hi, like it seemed really, I don't know, like spiteful. Like I feel like she did it to be petty, which is like, why?
I agree with you because even Ira felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I think it was her.
What else are you gonna say? Like you have these two people who were married. She comes over to say hi. After introductions, what are you gonna say? Like, I hope you're doing well. Like, no, I'm sure he doesn't feel that way about her. She broke his heart and left him for another man, and we're not gonna sit here and pretend like we're friends. Like,
no.
Go, leave.
Yeah. And, rightfully so, he's shaken up about this. So they go back to Jess's and Marie's house. They bring a plant. And they're, Jess and Marie are going on about the wagon wheel table. And Harry loses it. And he's like, you better start putting your name on your books now so that you know exactly who the books belong to. He just completely loses it on them. He goes outside. Sally follows him, and it's like trying to calm him down, but he's still on fire. So they're going back and forward on this. I don't know if you have any comments around that back and forward.
I really like that scene with the fight.
Me too.
Yes. I like it a lot because it's such a healthy fight.
Yes.
Like they, obviously he's lashing out at her because he's upset. He ran into his ex-wife for the first time since the divorce, and he said, like, he's clearly trying to pick a fight with her because of what he's going through. Like he's just lashing out, and she's trying to like keep it together, and she's trying to be rational about it, but whatever he says hits a nerve. Yes. He basically calls her a robot because he's like, do you even care about Joe leaving? Do you have feelings? And
like nothing seems to bother you,
right? And they just kind of go back and forth, and she says something to him, and then he is just kind of looking at her, and he's like, "Are you done?" but not in a patronizing way. He says,
No.
"Are you done?" And she said, "Yeah." And he said, "Can I say something?" And she says, "Yes." And then he says, "I'm sorry." I was like, oh. I
I
loved it.
love.
It was a very healthy way to have an argument. And you know what the sad part is though,
Mhm,
is that I don't think most couples fight that way. I
mhm.
think the fact that they were friends, like they knew how to communicate with each
Yes.
other, they knew each other so well. But for some reason, I feel like when those same two people are thrust into an actual romantic relationship, it's like
Mhm,
the ability to have a productive argument kind of goes
mhm,
out the window, and maybe you take that person for granted, and it's not like that. It rarely ever goes down like that, especially in the moment. And for the
mhm.
guy to be like, "I'm sorry, like I don't know what I was thinking," and like they
Yeah.
hug and whatever, like I love that whole scene.
That scene is so beautiful. My exact note, it's literally their fight feels respectful and honest because I just love the way he apologizes.
They respect each other so much.
So much, so much. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I want to fight like that. So future husband, if you're listening, I'm going to ask you if you're done and you need to say yes. And then I'm going to ask if I can say something and you also need to say yes. And then I'm going to apologize. It's a beautiful
It is.
scene.
The ability that they can say I'm sorry to each other. Like
Yes.
that can be such a hard thing to
Yeah.
say. That can be a hard thing to even get, like an actual genuine apology. Like not a lot of
Mhm.
people are good at that.
No, no. I think we let our pride get the best of us, so then we're
Mhm.
not sincere when we're apologizing. We
Mhm.
just a lot of times we think we have to apologize, not that we want to.
Yep.
Well, fast forward. Now she's losing it
Yep.
because and she asked him to come over because Joe's getting married. So Sally asked Harry to come over because Joe is getting married. Now, can I just say Meg Ryan does the whole robe tissue frantically walking around so well because it reminded me of You've Got Mail and like how well she just does the whole tissue throwing and everything. So she's doing that here and she's losing it because Joe gets married. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but it did remind me of the taxi cab light thing because it just feels like you said maybe wrong person, wrong time. It was a mixture. Like that was just never meant to happen for her and Joe.
Mhm.
But she's still upset, which goes back to when Harry was asking her, do you feel anything?
Yeah.
Does anything bother you? And up until that point, she does say now, she's like, I thought he was going to end up alone. Like, I didn't think, this was supposed to be his transitional
Right,
woman.
right.
So, but it hit her when he's actually getting married. Then we have this note in a wrong place, but it was about getting older in love. Did they have a conversation around getting older? Oh, she did. She said, I'm
Oh,
going
is
to
it
be
she says
40
I'm
one
gonna be
day.
40.
Right. So as they're going back and forward, she's like, I'm going to be 40 one day. We find out it's like 8 years later. But again, she's got this ticking clock within her that's telling her, you're getting older for love,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah,
bullshit.
it's the that looming thing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe she's scared because she's getting older. It's not happening for her. The dating pool is
Yeah.
getting a little thinner, and so she's freaking out, and she's also hurt because when Harry asks her, if Joe came to you right now and asked you to take him back, would you do it? And she said no.
Hmm.
But it still doesn't take away the fact
Still
that
hurts.
she wasn't chosen, that
Yeah.
she wasn't, that what did she say? She says all those years that he was saying he didn't want to get married, he just didn't want to get married to
Yes.
me. Of course that's hurtful. You don't have to. I don't know. For
I
for being with somebody for 5-6 years, that's a good chunk of your time, and to have that realization, I mean, even if you're over that person, like it's still something that would hurt your feelings, I would think. Like you can two things can be true at the same time. You can not want to be with somebody, but it can also hurt you that they didn't choose you, or they didn't see you as something serious. That they didn't take you serious.
Priscilla, this whole scene is always right up my alley, literally. Because, as you know, I was in a relationship for 5 years. I thought the relationship was heading in a direction. The direction was not that direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never proposed to, which was sort of the thing I wanted to. Anywho, we've been broken up now for almost 3 years, I think, if my math is right. I definitely know we're not getting back together. I definitely know we'll both move on. I don't know what he's up to right now, but if I find out he gets married, like, yeah, it's gonna bug me.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I know, because we got to have some conversations after we broke up, that like he just was in a different stage of his life, different priorities, different things, and I get it. So it wasn't about me, but I still wasn't chosen. So I get that feeling. So I'm gonna need you to stick around for the day that we find out when he gets married, because I may need your help.
Of course.
But then they went to the whole mouth kissing again, Priscilla. Come on. Really?
Oh, when
Really?
he's comforting her and he like just gives her like the quick peck.
No, you're so cute. The quick peg, no. No.
Well, it starts out as a quick peck, and then
No.
he's gonna like get up and get something for her, and she's like, no, and like pulls him in, and then he kisses her again, but this one is a little bit more lingering, and then they go, what do you mean?
No, they are two grown adults. They know the moment you are kissing someone literally at the foot of your bed. Come on.
Oh no, I know, but I thought you were talking about like the kind of kiss it was, because I was like, oh, it was just like a quick thing.
No. Even if you touch my ear at that point. Come on.
Well, yeah, she's so vulnerable that she's...
So he knew what he was doing. I'm sorry, I love Harry, but he knew what he was doing. He knew.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say that he didn't.
He knew she was vulnerable. He knows he has an attraction to her, and then he plants the kiss on her mouth. Anyway, we can move on. But he knew what was gonna happen.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, for him to say otherwise,
because then they start making out. He obviously doesn't stop it either. Again,
exactly.
He knows what he's doing. Then we cut to them waking up in the morning.
No, I don't think it's the morning. I think it's just after they're done.
It's after they're done, exactly. So after they're done,
he looks scared.
He looks like he's done the worst thing he could have done in his whole life.
And she is happy. She's all so like happy. Giddy.
Because I think for us as women, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like if I was in her situation and I'm starting to feel feelings and that happens, then I think, okay, feelings are mutual. This is great. Mm-hmm. This is off to a great start.
Mm-hmm.
But sadly, I think maybe his reaction to it, that's what causes, I think, the ruffle between them.
Oh, definitely. And you know what? Her reaction after they sleep together, you can tell that she wanted it, even though like clearly like it took her by surprise. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this actually happened. But she seems happy. Like when she goes out to get water for them, and she like has this smile on her face. Like it just seemed like she was like hopeful and she was like satisfied with what happened. Like she seemed very much welcoming of this whole thing. And his reaction, like that's not the reaction that you want a man to have. He's freaked out. He like pushes you away, doesn't know what to do. Like that would make any woman feel like crap. And he's like your typical runner, running away when things get real, running away when maybe that's part of self-sabotage. Like when something good happens, he's like, all right, I'm out of here. But at the same time, I understand why he's freaked out.
Yeah. He just been through a divorce.
He has this woman that he has a great friendship with. And he, regardless of how he might feel about her or how attracted he is to her, he's probably thinking, well, that's it. Like I ruined this. I'm going to lose her. You know, he probably is scared that this is going to ruin everything. And she's clearly very important to him. But because he doesn't know how to act and he doesn't know how to really handle things. It's very off-putting for her to go to sleep, wake up, and he's putting on his clothes in a hurry.
Yeah.
Just like how the numerous times that he has told her
Exactly.
that what he's done with women that he's slept with, that he's out the door immediately in the morning. Like, so
Exactly.
she is like, I can't believe he's doing this. Like, it really deflates her. And she seemed like she fully embraced where things led her. Like it was supposed to happen. Oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
and she seemed very okay with that.
Yeah. But she was, I agree. She was definitely taken back. I will say when I first watched the movie and I saw him getting dressed, I immediately thought about that. I was like, that's what he does with every woman. Don't do this to her, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I did love how he said, you know, got to get ready for work. You too. Why don't we go out to dinner? So I don't know what happened there, but they both were like, that, you know, we cut to her saying, I hope I get to say it first that it was a mistake. They both agree it was a mistake, but she's like, I hope I say it first. He says, I hope she says it first. They have dinner. They sort of, it's a weird dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, their whole friendship sort of slows down, I guess. Maybe they don't talk to each other. It seems like it cooled off and they hadn't seen each other in a while because when, you know, they're asking their best friends about each other.
Yeah, they each call Jess and Marie.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole scene was good too, like the way they're all talking to each other, but like it kind of like they're taking turns.
Yes.
I
love that too.
And Jess and Marie they're like, oh my God, but they also were so supportive of it. They're like, we've been praying for this. Like, this is great. And you can see that she is like, I thought it was great, but then I guess it wasn't. And he says the during part was great, but then I needed to get out of there because I felt trapped. Like,
come on, dude. Whatever.
You know what I think? I think he felt trapped because deep down he knew, like, this is the person, this is my person. Like he knew what she was to him, and maybe he just really wasn't ready to lean into that. Like she's endgame for him, and he probably knew it, and he's like, I'm not ready for this. Like, I got divorced, and I know I'm gonna marry her, so I'm just gonna go from one thing to the other. That was my thought on why he was like, I felt trapped, because he knows, like, she's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So their, like you said, their friendship kind of cools down a bit. It's kind of awkward, and then the next time they see each other is at Jess and Marie's wedding. I guess they're probably best man and maid of honor.
It seemed that way.
Yeah, they were up there with them. I have to say, Marie's dress is freaking hideous. I hated that dress.
Yeah, it gave me like Cinderella, first version of Cinderella.
She looked like a child playing dress up. Like, it looked way too big, and
I hated that headpiece too.
Yeah.
Everything about it was not good.
Not cute at all. But yeah, so they're at the wedding.
Okay, question about this wedding thing.
Yeah.
Pea pod with a shrimp? This is a thing?
I you know what? I just noticed that today. Out of all the times that I've seen this movie, I really paid attention to what he said to her. And I looked at her hand. I'm like, it really is
a pea pod with a shrimp
around a pea pod.
Yeah.
So freaking
or the pea pod is around the shrimp.
Yes, the pea pod is around the shrimp, which is really weird.
I was like, was this a thing? Like, was this an appetizer back in the day that, like, I don't know. It was just interesting.
I couldn't say, because that's the first time I've ever heard.
Okay, I didn't Google this, but I'm going to see if there's a recipe out there, and we'll try it one day.
It might literally just be us going to the supermarket, getting like a shrimp cocktail ring, and just taking the shrimp and wrapping it with a pea pod.
Okay, I refuse to do that, and the reason why is because where's the seasoning? And I really hope that's not what she was eating.
It looked like it. It looked like it. Yeah, so they're at the wedding. He goes up to her like nothing has happened, trying to make
Mm-hmm.
conversation. She's trying to give him the cold shoulder. And then they get into this huge blowout about what happened. And it's really interesting because she says to him, like, why are you acting like it meant nothing? And he says, why do we have to act like it meant everything?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
felt really bad for her. Like, I don't know, that it just his reaction to it, like I know that was his way of like just trying to get them back on track. And
Yeah. Yeah.
she wasn't really having it, and they go to the kitchen and he says something so stupid to her. Like he basically blames her for why
Yeah.
they had sex.
Yeah. Like you called me all in a yeah. Yeah.
He's like, what did you think was going to happen? You're crying, you're asking me to hold you. And she's like, are you telling me that this was out of pity? And she slaps the shit out of him.
Yeah. Good.
Good. Yeah,
Good.
like
Yeah.
he deserves it.
Yeah. Because like I said, he kissed her, then continues, doesn't stop her. So it's like, no, you're the one that had this in your head. She just needed a friend at that moment, and you took advantage of that. So that was I'm glad she slapped him because that was wrong.
Yep. And so he tries calling her a bunch, and she's just screening her calls.
I
And
love this. I love this so much because she's not having it. She's put her foot down. And I love how he tells Jess, this is my favorite part too, when he's like, he's not going to keep trying. He's through making a schmuck out of himself. Yet the next scene is literally him singing on her machine.
mm-hmm.
And can I just say, this to me is such a standard that I want to remind myself of all the time. When a man wants to be with you, he will do whatever it takes. Whatever. He will sing on your machine if he wants to. And this is just a good reminder for myself not to settle for someone who just finds me attractive or isn't sure about me. The right one will sing on my machine, even though I don't have a machine. So I just loved how persistent he is. And then, of course, she finally answers. They talk for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't recall the conversation, but
he asks her if she has a date for New Year's, if she's going to whatever New Year's party is going on. And he's like, well, we always said if we didn't have anybody that we're going with, that we would go with each other. And she just kind of was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't be your consolation prize. Like, she felt like a backup for him. And so she's like, no. He ends up staying home for New Year's. She goes out with Jess and Marie, but is having a horrible time, having to like fake laugh at all these dorks that keep talking to her and trying to dance. That party looked terrible. Like no talent, like talent pool was not good.
No.
Like all these dudes hitting on her, and she's also sad too. So she's like she's not interested in trying to start something up. And
so I'm glad she decided, she's like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
like, this whole time he's walking around now.
Yeah, and he's thinking about things and really just remembering their entire, like the course of their entire friendship from the time that they first met.
Yeah.
And you can tell that he like really comes to the realization, or at least like admits to himself finally that like this is the person I'm supposed to be with. I don't like, for me watching the movie, like these aren't just chance encounters, them coming back into each other's lives. Like that was supposed to happen. You guys are coming together at the moment that you're supposed to come together. Like I said, 21-year-old version of them, they were not ready for each other, but they keep coming back. They keep finding their way back to each other until this final time when they decide to be friends.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you ever heard the saying, like, if you ask the universe or ask God for something, there are 3 different answers. There's either yes, yes, but not yet, or no, I have something better.
Yes.
And for them, it was yes, but not yet.
Yeah.
I love their whole history.
It is very beautiful. So I'm glad he realizes that and then just takes off. He's running. He's running
He's
to
running
her.
to the party. She's about to leave and he comes in and he does this whole big declaration of love and she's trying to get away from him because she's like, look, you're lonely. It's New Year's. Like, I don't want to do this with you right now. And then he launches into what I believe is a very sweet declaration of love where he just lists all these reasons why he loves her so much.
He does. And it's such a beautiful speech. It's a beautiful moment. You can see it in her eyes. She's in love and she's so happy that he is right in front of her right now saying that.
She's happy, but she's also annoyed. She's also annoyed because she's like, you can see from her face that she's like, wow, like, I can't believe you said all these things to me. But then you see her face change and she's pissed because she's like, why didn't you? It's almost like I wish I had known this sooner type of thing. And now I can't be mad at you. And now I can't hold a grudge for how you handled everything. He's basically going to get a pass on his behavior, but it's cute.
It is really cute. It's again, it's one of my favorite movies, being one of my favorite speeches too, because I love when he says, when you're realize you want the rest of your life, or like, I can't think of the exact words he says, but you want the rest of your life to start now. And that's why he ran to her and confessed his love. Fabulous movie. Great movie.
Love it.
I could watch it all the time. I think also at night I like to play it because the tones or the contrast of it is so low. Is that the right terminology?
Do you mean like cinematography wise? Like the actual, like the picture of the movie?
It's not that bright.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like The Office. Like I can't always fall asleep to The Office because the office lights are right there.
Got you.
But this movie and New Girl, I don't know why I'm even talking about this, but this movie and New Girl have perfect lighting to fall asleep. Anywho, but let's talk about our rating. I think we both know where we stand, but we need to solidify our rating. So, Priscilla, why don't you tell me your rating first?
So for this movie, we're doing a scale of 1 to 5 autumn leaves. Because it's got such a fall vibe.
It's got the crunchy leaves.
Yeah, it's got like the orange and yellow type of, I don't know, fall feel. So we stuck with autumn leaves as our little scale. On the scale 1 to 5, it's a 5 for me. Like, no question. I love this movie. I love the performances, love the story, the writing, everything. You know what I love too about the movie is throughout the entire film, it's kind of bookmarked in different spots with interviews of couples, like telling their story about how they met and fell in love. And actually, the couples are not real, but the stories are real. They're all true stories gathered by the writer, Nora Ephron, and they're reenacted by the actors. And then the final couple that's interviewed is Harry and Sally, because they got married 3 months after his whole, grand gesture of love. So I love it. I love it. 5 autumn leaves for me.
5 crunchy leaves. Yes. So my rating would also have to be 5 autumn leaves, and there's just no argument about that. Perfect movie. This movie just plays right into my hopeless romantic heart. It's got a bit of practicality, but it's got a bit of love, and when it's meant to be type of vibe. The casting is really great. I think Billy Crystal is so cute in this movie, and their chemistry is so amazing.
Yes.
The movie's funny, and I get closure because through that interview, I got the closure I needed. They got married. They had the chocolate cake with the coconut thing. And I was so
sauce on the side.
I was so happy for them. So yeah, 5 out of 5. There's no debate about it. And if I ever meet anyone in my life that says this movie is not a 5, I might have to spend them in jail.
You'd have to question what kind of person they are.
Truly. They're probably a Gemini.
We know. You know what? I know a couple, and literally two Geminis that I'm like, you know what? They're good. That's it. Just 2. So
That's it.
So shout out to my brother-in-law, Eric, and shout out to my very good friend, Rebecca Kiesler, because they are like the only non-chaotic Geminis that I know.
Shout out to Rebecca and Eric, listeners from Jersey. And the greatest Geminis on earth. Oh, man. Well, it was wonderful, again, Priscilla, to chat with you about this movie.
Yeah. I was looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually kind of like happy and sad, you know, we did it, but also like, oh, we did it, you know.
It's all right. Yeah. It's already done.
It's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited for our next one, which we already recorded. Spoiler alert for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited for it because we're not excited for it. And that's all I'll say.
But it's another movie where we're pretty aligned.
We are. We're starting to, you know, we're starting to catch here. We're picking up what we're putting down, you know. Oh, fabulous. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Monday.
Oh, you too, Jen.
Thank you.
I'm going to get some rest.
And dinner. I feel like I'm always chasing dinner. Oh, well.
Thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to send any movie recommendations our way, or just, you know, a little love note, you can drop us a line at podcastmeetcute@gmail.com or find us on Instagram and TikTok at the Meet Cute Pod. Enjoyed the show? Subscribe today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And finally, a big shout out to Spreaker from iHeart for being such a great podcasting platform. Until next time.